Hello, Sim here. So, Call of Duty World War II comes out, well, the beta does anyway, this Friday on the PlayStation 4, and all the hype so far and blah blah. It looks a good game, that's cool, but we've seen this all before. How does it play? The beta is going to be the proof in the pudding, and the most important aspect to me is the netcode. How good is it? Now, a lot of you guys were interested in my 60Hz server video, and there was questions out there, and I'm sure quite a few of you have been asking yourself, how good is my internet got to be, and what does that mean? So that's what I'm going to try and demystify in this video. So the whole 60Hz thing is to do about the communication and sending data between your server, whether that be a dedicated server or another gamer who's hosting on PC or on their console, and the client, i.e. you normally who are gaming if you're not the host in a peer-to-peer situation, but normally between server and client. I try and keep it simple. So hertz is how many times it occurs per second. I'm sure you guys know this. So that's 1 divided by 60, which is approximately, if we round it down, 16 milliseconds. So every 16 milliseconds I need to send data from my console to the dedicated server, and similarly every 16 milliseconds the dedicated server has got to send data to me, the gamer. Yay! So now milliseconds should sound familiar, because a lot of you guys will be going, oh my god, I have really good bandwidth, I got to have a really large download speed and a really good upload speed. No, the speeds are not important. The latency is, and that is measured in ping. Now you can easily determine your base ping, or your basic ping anyway, by going to speedtest.net. But what does ping mean? It means your round trip time. How long does it take the packet of data to be sent from your machine to the server and back? That's what ping means. So if I get a 16 millisecond ping, well, does that mean it takes 8 milliseconds to get there and 8 milliseconds to get back? On the law of averages, maybe. But it could be 12 milliseconds to get there and 4 milliseconds to get back. The worst case, like the extreme example, 15 milliseconds to get there and 1 millisecond to get back. Very unlikely, right? But this gets pretty techy and very implementational on the finer details of how is it implemented, and you've got all the network infrastructure and topology that it goes through, i.e. your road traffic network, does it go through little A roads first and then motorways to get there and then back, and country lanes to get back. That's what I mean by network topology. So all you need to know is, can your ISP send packets at 16 milliseconds going up and receive packets of data at every 16 milliseconds coming down? So that is the minimum rate you're going to need to support 60 Hz. Right now, shooters use UDP, and this is known as the fire and forget protocol. You literally send the data and you don't need to know whether they got it or not, because you've already moved on in the world. Your position is forwards, left, right, backwards. Doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter if the packet's lost compared to traditional TCP/IP. So because there isn't no acknowledgement, there's less overhead and reduces the latency, so it's a faster transmission of data. So it's good, right? Less processing time. So if we go on the laws of averages, that it takes 8 milliseconds to get there and 8 milliseconds to get back in a 16 millisecond ping case, then your ISP needs to report a ping of 32 milliseconds to a local server in your area. And so that will mean that 16 millisecond update rate can be achieved. So if you think about jitter too, which is a bit of variation on your ping, if your ISP has a ping of 30 milliseconds or less, then you're good to go, right? Using DSLreports.com is a very good way of determining what your ping is for both upload and download. So those of you who've seen my buffer bloat videos will know about that stuff. Anyway, from the real world perspective, Call of Duty dedicated servers, the best I've ever seen is 15 milliseconds. So the dedies you connect to need to be around that to support that 60 Hz netcode. Remember, they need to be 16 milliseconds. I guess they could be at 30, but providing you're connected to dedies, it's all good. Now, what about peer-to-peer when it comes and consoles? When they run out of dedies, it's been confirmed that it is going to be a hybrid system. is it still going to be 60 Hertz? That's down to the game developer, and also potentially how much CPU's left over, because this is where we know your console is the dedicated server, so to speak, right? But when you got a PS4 Pro or an Xbox One X, then I would expect it to support the 60 Hertz, you know, we'll have to wait and see. Now, gamers with higher latency are going to have slower update rates, and there's going to be a mix of update rates being sent and received by gamers. So how does it handle this different mix? It's not everything going at 20 Hertz type stuff as it's always done for the past few years. No, it's going to be a whole hybrid mix of update rates going on. And the way the game handles this is by tick rate. And tick rate is not the same as the update rate. The update rate is the transmission rate, the frequency of sending network packets, you know, from console to server and server back to console. What the tick rate is about updating the game world. So that's the game world update rate. When does the game server do its update with all the best data it's got to hand to determine where every single player is in the game world, what orientation they're pointing in, etc., whereabouts they are on the map, and whether they're shooting bullets at this particular point in time. Now, we don't have any idea about the tick rate on what that's going to be. There's been no information I've seen anyway. It could be out there, but it would make sense that the tick rate's got to be 60 Hertz, right? If your update rate is 60 Hertz, your tick rate has got to at least be 60 Hertz. And so although the tick rate is updating, you know, every 16 milliseconds, the data that it sends out to gamers is going to be totally dependent on their internet. So if you've got a 60 millisecond ping, for example, then you're going to get that update rate sent to you a lot slower pace. So if going back to peer-to-peer that we're hosting, one of us is unfortunate enough to be the host, then the tick rate is more likely to be 30 Hertz, maybe not. It's going to be interesting to see, but I would expect the Pro and the One X to be 60 Hertz. They've got much more horsepower. So yeah, that's it really. So don't worry about speeds, it's latency. Do some pings, do some traffic shaping, i.e. use congestion control if you've got NetDuma, or if you've got something like a TP-Link, or you're rocking one of these open source firmwares, do a little bit of bandwidth control to lower your speeds but increase, i.e. reduce your ping, so you've got a faster ping, and then you should be good. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the game plays, especially when you're gaming against other people who've got what we would traditionally term as laggy internet, where they lag and skip across the screen. It's going to be interesting because that should disappear or be less pronounced with the higher tick rate and the higher update frequency that we're going to get in future. But we're going to find out this Friday, and I need to go and order that beta before I forget to go and do so. So I hope you found this information useful and informative. I do appreciate a thumbs up, it really does help me grow. And until next time, this has been Sim.